I assisted Edith Tomley with Meals on Wheels. Her regular helper was out of town for the holidays. Edith Tomley is in charge of the St. Aidan's Altar Guild. She has her finger in many pots, Meals on Wheels being one of them. Edith is a retired Army nurse, and her training has come in handy on more than one occasion. Anyway, we'd almost finished our rounds when we came to a very run-down lot and a house in desperate straits. I said, Edith, don't they have a yard service to take care of this? Can't afford one, Edith replied. But Edith, don't they have children who can come around to keep up with things? Negative, she said. But no one at all to help, I said, pressing the point. Edith sighed. She lives alone, has no family, and no money, she said efficiently. Edith Tomley does not engage in idle conversation. You get the picture. However, she did say to me, brace yourself. It's not a pretty sight. I thought, oh my, the place must be a shambles, or Edith would not have felt the need to prepare me. Nothing she could have said would have prepared me. Edith knocked on the front door, but no answer. She tried the door. It was unlocked, so we went in. The smell of the place took my breath away. And that's all I'm going to say about it. But you get the picture. Miss Lorna, Edith called out. Meals on Wheels. No answer. Miss Lorna. Wait here, Edith said, heading down the hall without hesitation. She came back almost immediately. She said that Miss Lorna was on the floor of her bedroom. Call 911, she said, and I did. As the ambulance took Miss Lorna away, I suggested we get a service to clean up the place for her return. She won't be back, Edith said without hesitation. I said, what will become of her? She'll end up in a bare-bones care facility and die there, Edith said. Since Edith is not one to elaborate, I had to flesh out the scene myself. And I did. Miss Lorna would die in a strange place, surrounded by strangers, professionals albeit, but strangers who would barely know her name, who would keep her body alive until some other stranger deemed it appropriate to stop, or until nature would mercifully make her fall. Made me think of Leo. I said, Edith, we cannot let that happen. Suggestions? She snapped. Well, Edith, what about that fellow's ministry, that place? You know what I mean. What do they call it? You know the man who spoke to us a few months back about this house where the dying can come to, well, die. I can't remember the name. ABODE, Edith said. Her eyes lit up. Yes, that's the name. And didn't he say that there would be no cost at all to the guest? Well, do you think they'd take Miss Lorna? Edith, do you think the house is even ready? Should we call? Do you know the number? Edith, am I talking too much? Edith marched to her car. Get in, she said. And I did. We sped to the church in search of the telephone number for ABODE, ASAP. That's as soon as possible. The ABODE house was just opening. And they had one room ready. And they said that Miss Lorna could be their first guest. Edith took care of everything. Well, the holidays came and went as they are wont to do, and last week, it was just last week, yes, Edith asked if I'd like to visit the place, ABODE. Miss Lorna was there, of course, and she was in the final stages of hospice. And I had never seen the house, and well, anyway, we went. We drove up to a little white house. A cottage, really. And it was surrounded by trees. Oak trees. There was evidence of work being done here and there to clear brush and to fix up the place. A stone walk led us to the front porch, and lace curtains hung in the windows. When we stepped inside the front door, we could immediately smell coffee and something sweet in the air. A volunteer led us down the hallway. We passed 2 bedrooms, one of which was completely empty. It's a work in progress, Edith said. Then we got to Miss Lorna's room. It was spotless, simply furnished, and it smelled of vanilla. The volunteer said, "The hospice nurse has just left. Miss Lorna's in hard labor." Labor? I said. You speak as if she's about to give birth. She is, said this volunteer whose eyes caught the light. It's hard work giving birth to spirit, and we are her midwives, she said. Miss Lorna smiled and said in the tiniest voice, "Almost there." Can she hear us? I asked. Oh yes, said the volunteer. She can hear everything and much more than we. Miss Lorna's hearing voices on the other side. And the volunteer, a lovely woman, stepped out of the room. Edith let out a heavy sigh. I wish Julep could have had a place like this, she said, her lips pressed together. To explain, Julep was the short version of mint julep, which was the nickname of Edith's best friend, Julia. Edith's partner, I should say. Edith kept their relationship top secret for years, from the army, from her family, from St. Aidan's, but then one day Edith said, I am too old and too talented to put up with this crap. And she announced that she and Julep were as good as married. And that was that. Anyway, I said, I would have loved to have had a place like this for Leo. It would have been a peaceful passage for our spouses, I said. For the first time since I've known her, Edith smiled at me. Affirmative, she said. The volunteer returned with a boombox of some sort and turned it on. An old spiritual began to play. Edith had known that Miss Lorna was a lifelong Baptist, loved this hymn, and had passed on the information to the ministry. Then another volunteer came in with muffins fresh out of the oven. Blueberry, she said. Miss Lorna's favorite. Miss Lorna rallied, sniffed the air, and with a big smile exhaled. We all stood silently, holding our muffins, watching Miss Lorna breathe. And then she stopped breathing. We stood very still. Edith took her pulse, and that was that. No beeping, no noise, only the soft music of the old spiritual and the scent of vanilla and blueberry muffins in the air. I can report to you with absolute certainty, it was a peaceful passage. The next day I rang up the ABODE number. A man's voice answered the phone. It sounded familiar, soft-spoken voice. I said, "My name is Mrs. Barrington. I'm a member of St. Aidan's. Were you the man who spoke to us a number of months ago about the place called ABODE?" He said yes. I told him that I was there when Miss Lorna died. He said, "Thank you for that." I said, "I would like to pledge to the continuing renovation of the house and the grounds, which are in particular need of landscaping, especially in the back, but I'm sure you already know this." He said yes. And I told him the amount to put next to my name, Mrs. Barrington. I also said that I had an antique dresser with a fuzzy mirror, but a beautiful piece of furniture nevertheless, and a room full of other pieces, all in mint condition, that could smartly furnish that empty room you have. And I instructed him to put that down beside my name, Mrs. Barrington. And he did. And I said, "One more thing, young man." I said, and he said, "Yes." I said, "Do you take reservations?"